Hello, everyone. Just Mike and I today. We're going to get into a couple teams for you, though. We're going to have some fun. And did you watch the big Cubs game last night?
No, I did not. I concentrate mostly on the Yankees when it comes to baseball.
Yeah. No,
what happened?
Winning the division or whatever it was. No big deal.
Yeah, I mean, after winning the World Series last year, after 100 and some odd years, winning a division is sort of anticlimactic.
A little.
But I mean, hey, if they could, if they.
What? Stop. She's an advanced vac cleaner. That's a friggin'.
Now to fix these
Stop
issues.
it.
If it's not Russ with his commercials.
I know this is the worst. I just got a virus thing I just ran through. I guess obviously it didn't work. It was taking me long because I was trying to finish. Because I get hit with these viruses all the time.
Well,
hopefully
anyway.
It won't happen again. Jeez, that's ridiculous. All right. Okay. Yeah. So I was just getting my notes up. Let me try that again, real quick.
Well, yeah, no. What I was saying was after the Red Sox broke their 86-year World Series list streak,
right?
They won, I think, 3 in the span of 5 or 6 years. So it's not impossible that the Cubs win again once they've broken the long streak. It would be impressive if they could do it 2 years in a row, but I mean, we'll see.
Not nearly as exciting this time around. No. Like for the casual fan like me, last time I was like, okay, it's kind of cool because it was something that hadn't happened for a while.
Yeah. If you can get any more dramatic than leading in the 9th inning, blowing the lead, and then winning in extra innings, I mean that's akin to the Leafs giving up a 4-1 lead in Game 7 and then winning in overtime.
Yeah. Wow, it's about the same. It's a nice tie into hockey too. All right, so it's just you and I hardly have any voice, but we're gonna get through this. Brings me up here real fast. Okay, so it is September 28th.
It is.
Jesus.
It is a Thursday.
It's Thursday. I got that much. All right. I know we are talking about Toronto and Vancouver today, so we're gonna get probably right to the teams. I got a couple of quick things very fast.
Right. There's a few news and notes out there. So yeah.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, September 28th. Man, that sounds terrible. 2017.
I'm Michael Agello.
And I'm Eklund, or at least 2/3 Eklund, my voice say. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world, and is brought to you by people like you at patreon.com/hockey who help support the show and keep it going here. All right, so quickly, a couple little things. I wanted to touch briefly on this changing of the rule that I wrote about today. Before we get into Toronto, I'm just not a fan of this concept. I think it's a completely. It feels like two wrongs to make a right. You know what I mean? It feels like is this happening because of the icing thing? Are they connected at all? Because it feels like they could be. Because if you think about it, when you take the fact that you can't call a timeout after icing away, that's like a timeout that was part of the whole timeout strategies before. So now take that away. So now do they think more people are just going to try to get offsides calls and see if it will work because they don't have to worry about that timeout? So they suddenly say, okay, if you're wrong on this, you're not only going to have given up a goal because you challenged a goal, obviously, but you're going to go 2 minutes. You're going to go 2 minutes short now. It feels like a way big overreaction to me. Like it feels too large, and it means that how are these coaches supposed to find out in the 35 seconds that they have there to be sure enough to make this call without a penalty? And what's going to happen after that is there are going to be people who they're not sure enough, so they don't make a call. We're going to go look at the highlight, and it was indeed offsides or whatever. And then there's going to be all these other second guessing things. It seems like it's setting up to fail.
It's all going to be on the video portion of the coaching staff up in the press box to be able to, and then that's similar to the NFL. You have to make a decision rather quickly, otherwise, if the other team snaps the ball, that it's over with. So
yeah,
the thing I don't like about it right now is the solution to this problem. This is sort of a half measure. This is sort of punitive damages. The solution to this problem was to go to the the NFL style offsides, where if the skate was, the plane breaking the plane, that would have I think that would eliminate a lot of calls. It's all this crap about having the blade on the ice, and how half of the calls are whether the foot is on the ice, not whether he's offside or not.
Right, and in order to get that view of whether the foot's on the ice, it's hard to get in 35 seconds, no matter how good your group is. I mean, you're looking at, you have to have really the right camera angles. You don't have the camera angle the NHL has at your disposal, which is another thing that's kind of crazy. Are they going to have that now? Maybe they should have that now. If you're going to put this, maybe they should be given that little angle.
Well, they're talking. I mean, I know that. I think in the playoffs they started to have those cameras right along the blue line, so you'd have that. Now, I believe that they released like video of those after the fact to prove that they made the right call. Right. But that's besides the point. What you're doing here is, and your scenario is probably going to play out during the season. There's a disputed goal. There's a potential offside. They review the offside. They find that it wasn't offside. They award the 2-minute minor, and then there's another goal scored. So if this is a tying goal, a coach is not going to call for the offside review because he risks losing the game if they blow the call. So I don't like this at all.
You're going to see very few, which is what they I mean, obviously they want less challenges, right? But this is the idea of this whole thing. It's as if they've gotten in the room and overthought it too much. Like the idea of this, you got to remember what this was about. The icing thing was about the fact that, you do ice the puck sometimes to get a break. That's been the way it's been in the NHL forever, right? So they want to create more offense, want to make that harder to do. So so now you can't change your lines. But once in a while, if your team's completely exhausted, you've seen coaches have to use their timeout to get and I thought that was fine. I thought that was really something that absolutely what a timeout is supposed to be is a timeout. Mm-hmm. A timeout by its definition is exactly used for something like that. Your team's tired, your team, you need a break, and in that situation you got to get players off the ice. That's what a timeout should be for. So why you take that away? Because how many times have we watched the game? And I wrote this in my blog, but how many times have you watched the game and at the end of the game, you're wondering, hey, did the coach use his timeout earlier? I can't remember. That was, and that has always been kind of fascinating to me because if a coach doesn't use the timeout, then you kind of sometimes, he must have used it earlier, but then we find out that he didn't use it earlier. He just didn't use the timeout. Then you go after him because he should have used his timeout at some point. There's certain things that, so that's the timeout part of it. The other part of it, is, the basic simple fact that the offsides is so frigging close on those plays, like you're saying. So the skate tip, if you just make the blue line and call it a day, I know you're still going to have moments that are going to be close, but it's not going to be nearly as much. But by calling him this, teams just aren't going to call it. You're going to have you're going backwards. I mean, it's going to have to be obvious. And if it's obvious, then aren't you just embarrassing the referees? And if a team does call it, if a team actually does call it, and it is close, now suddenly, okay, if you're a referee, and you can't tell me human nature doesn't play into this at all. So you're watching the highlight of it, the skate plays off or on. I can't tell. It's close. It could be off. It could be on. I'm going to give it to them because it's close enough and they were willing to risk a penalty here. So if I don't give it to them, it's so close. Now I'm giving him a goal on the penalty. I think it sets up for so many possible human errors. It's ridiculous.
I mean, the technology is there to take the human element out of it. I mean, we've seen it in tennis with that tracking that they use, where if the ball is in by 1/8 of an inch, they show the shadow and that it's in. I mean, you can do that with players with the puck on the line. So, and I don't know why that's
an invisible laser right across that line.
Right.
And if the player's skate isn't there, or you can totally do that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't understand why they don't do that, but what I think this opens up, I mean, they wanted to eliminate the review being a glorified timeout, and I get that because the review takes a couple minutes, and if a team is ahead by a goal and they're asking for a review for something, it gives them basically a 2-minute timeout instead of a 30-second timeout. I get that, but the thing that I don't like is that you risk with this new implementation a coach not wanting to put his team behind in a situation where he's not 100% sure, and that could allow a goal that is not a goal or allow a play that is not a right play. So I think that this is sort of going sort of backwards, and until they change the offside rule to the plane rather than the foot down, you're just going to have more problems.
Yeah, you really are. And I mean, the fact that we've seen so many goals called back that, over the years, no one ever complained about. I mean, this all comes back to the Matt Duchene, horribly offside thing, which is obvious. But most of the goals, 99.9% of the goals that are called back are so freaking close that, you can sit there and say the spirit of the idea of offsides was totally being held to. The player was definitely he was definitely holding to the spirit of offsides. He wasn't in cheating into the zone before the puck. He was just literally lift his skate up a second earlier.
The funny thing was that they never, the league never thought it was going to go to this extent where you're looking at an offside play 35 seconds before a goal to determine whether the goal should count or not. I mean, Duchene was completely offside on a breakaway and the puck went in.
Right.
But now we're going back and let's rewind 2 minutes. I mean,
I would have been so much better with a limit on that if they said, okay, there's a 30-second limit, or a minute, even a minute or whatever. Just a minute would be ridiculous. I think 30 seconds would be fine. I mean, if the puck's staying in the zone for over 30 seconds, that to me means the defense had more than one chance to get the puck out, and they didn't get the puck out. So the offsides is if they didn't get the puck out, if they get the puck out, the offside doesn't count anyway. So to me, that I agree with you. 30 seconds, 45 seconds, I don't know what the number would be, but there's a better way than this. This just feels like this feels like they're setting themselves up for so much failure, and they're putting players, the refs, and their coaches all in bad positions.
See, I have a lot of sympathy for the referees and the linesmen now, because I mean, you basically need to be carrying a 500-page rule book around while you're skating around to make sure you're calling everything right. I mean, the face-off thing that was started at the beginning of the preseason, the teams have been warned, and you see a lot less of those penalties. So maybe this is something that can be implemented without a great deal of hubbub. But right now, I mean, we won't know about the ramifications of this until the regular season. Yeah. And then once it's in the regular season, they're not going to change it until the next year. So you could have a year worth of just embarrassing situations.
It's going to be way too hard to judge it. It's going to be way too hard to judge it. It's just going to be crazy. I think it's amazing how they judge it now, but you throw it in now and you throw the extra penalty on top of it. That's really rough. I mean, that is really, really rough. A whole 2-minute power play given to the other team after they've already scored a goal. That's kind of rough. All right, a couple quick news. Andrew Hammond's on waivers. Interesting there, I think. Hamburglar, it has fallen quite a bit to be on waivers. They tried to trade him, and no one would trade for his salary, of course. So the issue is, will someone pick him up off of waivers? I don't think so.
I mean,
it's possible.
It's possible. I mean, I don't think he's let's just say he pales in comparison to their current backup, which is Condon, who's probably going to be their number one.
Yeah.
But, Hammond's making $1.3 million. If you got Ottawa to take a haircut on that and maybe retain a third of the salary, maybe you could move him. But, they can, by sending him down to the minors, they can bury over $1 million of the salary. So, they may just take the short-term hit and do that.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Rumors out there that Anderson, Josh Anderson, not John Anderson Josh Anderson has requested a trade from the Blue Jackets. Although the Blue Jackets are coming out and saying that this is not true, so I'm not really sure where this is right now. And haven't gotten any response.
Yeah, I mean, the Blue Jackets management is saying they haven't heard that Anderson's requested, but right. It's coming out of I know that Elliot Friedman from Sportsnet reported it first, and he's as good as it gets in the business. So I would tend to take his word that and maybe it's coming from the agent. I don't know where it's coming from, but I mean the thing here is Anderson scored 17 goals last year. He's 23 years old. He's coming off his entry level deal. He's probably looking for, if Columbus is looking for a 2 or 3 year bridge deal, they're probably looking to get him at an amount that, is reasonable, which is maybe around $2 million. He might want more. I mean, he's only had one big year, but there just seems to be an impasse here about what they want to pay him or how long the term is. And, he's a big body, 6'3", 220 pounds, goes to the front of the net. He's just sort of tapping into his potential. And if they can't get him signed, I mean, there's been speculation about him being part of the, Matt Duchene talks if Matt Duchene gets moved. But it's not going to be just him. It's going to have to be him and something else significant, because he's not. Yeah, he's not. He's a decent prospect, and he had a decent year last year. But he's not. I don't know if he's ready to ascend to that level.
No, but him and Murray are getting close, maybe. I mean, if I'm Sakic and I get offered him and Murray, I would do it, just because you're getting value there on something that seems like it seems like the value is diminishing every minute now with Duchene.
Yeah, and I think that I continue to say that they have to move him.
There's no question. I mean, I think this weekend it will get done. I think it's the weekend before. Usually the weekend before the season we get a lot done, and it often has to do with the Jewish holidays. It's very funny that way. It's funny because this Saturday is Yom Kippur, because my wife's Jewish. And there have been 2 Saturday trades and / signings on Yom Kippur before that ruined my holiday and made my in-laws hate me. One was the Phil Kessel trade, happened on Yom Kippur way back when.
Oh yes,
when
08, I believe.
Yep, that trade, and then also you had the signing of
09. It was 09.
Yeah, then there was the signing of the Islanders signing the 2 big defensemen, Leddy and
the trade of Leddy and Boychuk.
That also happened on so that's Saturday. So keep your ears open for Saturday, because surely it'll make me look horrible when I have to leave the dinner table to talk about these things. So anyway, Saturday's the day to look for. And lastly, before we get into everything, Robbie Fabry re-injuring his left knee, out for the season. Horrible thing. I feel so bad for Robbie Fabry. He's such a good young player, and this is now he's re-injured the same knee he got worked on before. This is rough, and it kills first and foremost. I think about Fabry, and it just sucks because he's such a key player and could be such a dominant type player, and he's never going to get a chance to do that right now.
Well, yeah, I mean it's sad, especially it's the same knee, and I didn't get a chance to see it, but the reporting about the press conference said he was noticeably distraught, and that's understandable. I mean, he scored 18 goals as a rookie. He had 15 points in the playoffs. He was ascending. He's only 21 years old, so if he can get this straightened out, hopefully he can resume his career. But the funny thing is, as soon as this happened, and it was apparently brought up in the press conference with Doug Armstrong, the mention of Jágr. I don't know if Iginla was mentioned, but the mention of Jágr.
Iginla mentioned the other day, so I think he is.
Yeah, no. If Jágr's name was brought up, and I guess he didn't say it was impossible that they would go, for somebody like Jágr or Iginla. So I mean that's intriguing. But with all the injuries and we talked about the Blues yesterday, with all the injuries that they have, with Bouwmeester, with Steen, with Berglund, I mean these are key players. It's really going to be challenging for them. And now that Fabry is out for the year, I mean, he didn't have a big hit, a big amount on his contract, so it's not like something that they can really benefit from massively in terms of long-term injury. He was on his entry-level deal, so this is going to put a little crimp in their plans and a little crimp in their budget to go out and sign a guy like Jágr or Iginla, because it probably cost over $1 million, maybe $1.5 million a year.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Okay, moving on. We're gonna start with the Vancouver Canucks, then we're gonna end with the Maple Leafs here, because we've got 2 teams doing. We're gonna go through Vancouver relatively quickly because there's not as much to talk about as there is probably with Toronto. Mm-hmm. Although both teams are interesting in different ways. All right, the Canucks last year, if you remember, right? They finished second. They finished last in their division. Obviously, they finished last in the Pacific Division. A minus 61 in goal differential, which is an enormously high number. 30, 43, and 9. So that's basically 21 games below true 500. That's really the worst season the Canucks have had in ages. Ranking wise, it all shows very easily that the goals per game they were 29th, goals against they were 24th, power play was 29th, penalty killing was 28th. And this is not a super young team either. I mean, defensively better, more young than their forwards, but up front still. Going with the big Sedin Eriksson combo, which we might see Vanek in there. It's possible, but there's this team has a really weird mixture of very old players and very young players, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I mean, they picked up Remistrov, they picked up Sam Gagner, they also picked up Michael Del Zotto in the summer, so they picked up some more offense, and by the looks of it, they have a half decent offense, but defensively they still have Zolato's not going to help them much on the defensive end of things for sure. And in goal, they're relying heavily on, the one thing they had last year, which helped keeping him in it, was Ryan Miller. A lot of times this year, it's Markstrom and Nielsen. So on this very Swedish-based team in a lot of ways. So I don't know, where they're going to go from here is really hard to say. They seem to be a tough team to play against, but they need a lot of things to go right for them to actually get back to where they want to go.
In my mind, too many things. I mean, I found it puzzling a couple weeks ago when, the Sedins came out and they said, well, we're not going to ever play any place other than Vancouver. And Trevor Linden was, part of the love fest and said, I'm not going to trade them. And I mean, okay, that's fine. That's all fine and good. But, they're UFAs at the end of the year. And if this team repeats what they did last year in terms of finishing at the bottom of the Pacific Division, I think you're foolish not to entertain the possibility of trading the Sedins. But, that being said, if they don't want to do that, they don't want to go in that direction, they do have some depth at forward. Gagne had a really good comeback year with Columbus. Brandon Sutter, I think, is a good second, third line center. Horvat gets his new deal. They add Vanek on a 1-year contract. They do have some good youngsters coming along. Brock Besser has played really well in the preseason. He's probably going to make the team. There's a chance that Jake Virtanen makes it. And because Virtanen played in Utica last year, their new coach Travis Green was coaching Utica, so I think he knows what Virtanen's all about. So I think that at forward, I think they're okay. Defensively, Edler is your top defenseman, is not optimum. Tanev is a good stay-at-home guy. So is Gabranson. Del Zotto is a wild card because if he plays offensively like he used to, his defensive game slips, and if he tries to play more of a conservative game, then his offensive game isn't anything great.
Yeah,
they have a couple good youngsters in Hutton and Stetcher. The goaltending to me is the deal breaker. I have no confidence in Markstrom. I think they were trying to make the transition last year, and Miller had to take over again as the number 1, and Miller now is the number 2 in Anaheim.
Yeah.
If you believe Russ, he thinks that he'll be the number 1. The tandem of Markstrom and Nilsson, it's going to be effective, but I don't know if it's going to be good enough for them to climb over too many teams in the West. So I think they're going to end up being, maybe ahead of Vegas, but I think around where Arizona is. So I think they're going to be 6th or 5th in the Pacific Division.
Yeah. I think that's all about right. This team, the crazy thing about them is they've drafted. I mean, they've had what people would call some good drafts recently, but they have not seen their draft picks into their lineup very much at all. I mean,
I don't think they want to rush your Levy. He's a very good prospect, but you don't want to throw a 19, 20-year-old defenseman to the Wolves. I mean, you've seen numerous examples. Unless it's a guy like Aaron Ekblad or somebody really special like Provorov or McAvoy. A defenseman is not playing in his teenage years. So,
right.
They may give him another year of seasoning before they'll take a serious look at him. And, I don't know if he's a star defenseman. From what Russ has indicated, his offensive game will be good, but not like top of the line.
Right.
But, and with this team, if they do fall behind, then that's when Jim Benning is going to have to make decisions, not only with the Sedins, but Tanev has been a guy who's been continual in terms of rumors of being traded. I know that there was a lot of connection between Tanev and the Leafs over the summer. Eric Branson's an RFA at the end of the year. They have to re-sign Stetcher off his entry-level deal. So, and they have other RFAs that they're probably going to need to sign. So they're going to have to make decisions based on how well or how badly they do this year.
Yeah. I mean, in their current starting roster, that at least is being listed on roster research, which we're using right now as our sort of our standard for this the season right now, they have exactly 4 guys of their top 20 and I'll even put their extra players in there, top 24 players, 4 guys they've drafted, beyond the Sedins who were drafted in 1999, of course. So, but beyond that, you've only got Horvat, Virtanen, Edler, and Hutton. That's it. That's it. So everyone else, so when you look at all those years there, you're looking at the year from 2000 till 2012 or 13 or 14, even if you're going to talk about not rushing guys in the younger years for sure. And Virtanen, like you said, Virtanen. So I always call him Virtanen. Virtanen is is not a definite. I mean, he's
no.
21 years old. So
yeah, I mean, he's unless there's a dramatic change of fortune, he's probably not going to be the big scorer that people thought when he was drafted in the top 10 a few years ago. But that's going to change. I mean, Besser is a first round pick. He's a good prospect. He's playing well, so he'll probably be infused in the lineup either this year or next year. Yalevi as well. So their draft.
They went 10 years there without a whole lot. Is what I'm saying. Like they went. Yeah. I mean, 2000, 2010 without really getting anything done.
Benning's ability as a drafter, as a scouter, as a scouting guru, I don't think that's in dispute. It's the moves that he makes as a general manager in terms of trades and signings that I question. Signing Eriksson to play with the Sedins and spending $6 million a year on a guy who's, I think he's 32 or 33 years old. He's still a good player, but this team needed to rebuild, needed to move on. And they're holding on to these veteran guys who, I think you could get a lot for. You really need to rebuild and reset. Right. But they're not doing that. They're holding on to that hope of sneaking into 8th place or the second wild card and getting into the playoffs. And to me, that's just foolish.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Couldn't agree more. I don't think they're a playoff team at all. I think they would be it would be miraculous for them to see the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
I think they're 7th or possibly 8th. I mean, I could see Vegas passing them. I really could. Not that it would be very embarrassing for them, obviously, but there's the energy and the basically a new team, the excitement. It's possible, but I think that they're down there with Vegas and Vancouver at the bottom of that division, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the Toronto Maple Leafs. A couple things about the Toronto Maple Leafs. First off, this team finished 4th or 3rd in their division, 4th in their division last year. Sorry, with 95 points. They were 5th in scoring in the NHL, which was an amazing thing considering their youth. They were 22nd in goals against per game, however, but the 2nd best power play and the 9th best penalty kills. So they were very good on special teams in general last year. Mm-hmm. They're very young, of course. They're a very young team. They've got a lot of a lot of players they drafted as opposed to the team we just talked about. A lot of drafted Maple Leafs are on this team, and and they have nothing but the sky is the limit for them right now. There are definite issues, and I think one of the more interesting things is how they're going to fit Patrick Marleau into this. For me, and I know that they've we've seen him in all different spots already. Mm-hmm. And does that mean that do they have to move somebody to actually make that work, or is Connor Brown going to be going to be sitting on the bench or in the press box, the guy who scored like 20 goals last year, right? So they have a ton of depth up front. Their goaltending is solid in Anderson and McElhinney. Their defense is where they're still very suspect. It feels as if this is the team that should be trading a forward for a defenseman. They really are set up like that, where they have enough extra talent that they could get that 1 or 2 defensemen in here that could really make them, that could put them over the top. But you've seen them play in preseason. You've seen them hung around them, Mike. What are your thoughts on this group?
Well, I think there's. We're getting the echo here.
Okay, you hear it? I don't hear it, but
okay. Hold on a second.
Okay,
I may have to log out and log back in because.
Okay, go ahead. We're going to do it. I'll log out. You can start talking about maybe.
Okay. Yeah. With the Leafs right now, first of all, Austin Matthews looks like he's really going to step up from what he did last year, which is amazing since he won the Calder and scored 40 goals. The additions of Marleau, Hainsey, and Dominic Moore, it's 3 guys who are over the age of 37, but I think they're all going to have differing impacts on the roster. Marleau will be playing with Nazem Kadri and Leo Komarov on the 2nd or 3rd line, however Babcock decides to use it. He's not going to play with Matthews. Babcock has decided he wants to have Zach Hyman playing with Matthews and Nylander, and that combo worked last year. Zach Hyman is a type of player that will go and dig into the corners and get the puck for Matthews and Nylander. Babcock likes that. He's like that going back to Detroit. He had guys like Abdelkader and Holmstrom playing with skilled guys like Datsuk or Zetterberg. So he likes that workman-like guy playing with skilled players. Marlowe's going to be used on the second line, either with Kadri and Komarov or Kadri and Brown. Brown right now is a fourth line guy, but I don't think that's going to last too long. There still is the thought that somebody is going to get moved. That at the deadline, you have Bozak, who's a UFA. You have Leo Komarov, who's a UFA. So same thing with Van Riemsdyk. You have too many forwards, and right now on defense, they're going to give a good long look to some of the young guys that they brought into the organization. But right now, Ron Hainsey is starting on the right side with Morgan Riley. And on the bottom pairing, it's anybody from Roman Polak, who hasn't played an exhibition game yet, a couple Swedish rookies in Andreas Borgman or Kali Rosen, Martin Marinson, Travis Dermott. And there's like 5-6 defensemen who could fit into that 6-7 role right now. So the defense is unsettled, and they have too many forwards, and that may have an impact in terms of trades that could occur before next Wednesday. I know that there is, and I was going to write about this in my blog today. There are reports out there about the Calgary Flames really needing a right winger badly, and the Leafs, even if they keep everybody that they want, Kasperi Kapanen is probably going to end up with the Marlies. I don't think they want to trade him, but you have a guy like Josh Levo who cannot be sent down to the minors. And if he doesn't make the team, he could help a team like Calgary. He could be a top 9 forward for a Calgary. And, that would alleviate a little bit of the Leafs back, because they have so many prospects up front and a few on defense that they're going to be one of those teams that needs to make that 2 or 3 for 1 type deal. But they're deep at forward. The defense is a little bit of a question mark. Freddie Anderson played really well last year. I'm still a skeptic on Curtis McElhinney. I don't think he played really well last night against Montreal in a preseason game, but I'm a little skeptical. He played well for them the last couple months of the year last year, but he's had an up and down career as a backup. So, they're going to go with him right now because Babcock likes him, but if he has 4 or 5 bad games like last year with Jonas Enroth, he could change his opinion pretty quickly. Babcock, and this is the one thing, and Kevin will attest to this. And I asked him about this. Babcock, a couple years ago when he started as the coach of the Leafs, was all positive about a team, in terms of, patting them on the back. These guys are trying, even though this team was 30th place. Now he's got all the talent in the world, and they beat Montreal 5-1 in a preseason game. And he's like, I didn't like the effort. This, and that was wrong. So he's making sure this team is not, that complacency doesn't set in. He's being tough on them. He's going to be motivating them. He's going to be pushing buttons. And that's Babcock. That's what he does. So the concern about sophomore slump when you have 6 or 7 rookies, I think is justified, but Babcock is going to do everything he possibly can to avoid that.
Yeah. And the sophomore slump thing doesn't seem to be affecting Matthews and Nylander in the preseason, at least. They've been tearing it up in the preseason. Matthews has 6 points in 3 games. Nylander with 5 points in 3 games. And it is just preseason, but still, it's often you'll see sophomore guys who had great rookie years not have the best preseasons coming out, but there doesn't seem to be any quit, or I don't think Austin Matthews knows how to play anyway, but full out, that seems to be what he's doing. And I like the fact that he and Nylander have that connection again. I like the fact I didn't like them being split up last year, and I mentioned many times to you, but
but you know what, the thing is that the overabundance of talent allows Babcock to still be able to push buttons, like I was saying. And if Nylander sloughs off a little bit, if he loses concentration, if he doesn't put in the effort, you're going to see Connor Brown in that line in about 3 seconds. He will continue to do that because he needs to be Babcock needs to push and prod these players to get what he wants out of them. He did that in Detroit. He will continue to do that in Toronto.
Mitch Marner is a third line player too. That kind of concerns me. Like, I don't.
Well, I mean, this is a 3-line offensive attack, and he's
Right.
playing with Bozak and Van Riemsdyk. So, I mean, he had as many points as Nylander had last year. Nylander played most of the year with, or at least the second part of the year with Matthews. So I'm not concerned. Marner generates his own offense in a way. I think it's a benefit to the Leafs that he's a little bit under the radar, that maybe Matthews and Nylander get the top checkers and he gets to face second and third lines and second and third defensive pairings. I think Marner is going to have a big year. Right now, the only thing that scares me regarding the Leafs is their defense. Morgan Riley, I think, is a good top pairing guy, but he's not a number one defenseman. I think Ron Hainsey is more of a 4, 5, 6 defenseman. They got him playing on the top pair because it just that's what they have to do right now. I think they still need a defenseman or two. Maybe some of these kids that they brought in can step in. I've been really impressed by the couple of the Swedes, but they're young and they're coming over to North America for the first time. So there's no guarantees they can handle it. And if they can't, then I think Lou Lamoriello's got to go to business, go to work and get himself a top 4 defenseman before the trade deadline.
Yeah. I mean, how is Marleau fit? My thought with Marleau has been, he is about 10 years older than everybody else on the team.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible, really, when you look at it. I mean, you take away Komarov, who he's 8 years older than, you take away Hainsey, who is almost as old as Marner. He averages way over 10 years older than everybody on this team.
I think a lot of the players, when I was at training camp, expressed admiration for Marleau's career, but they also look at him and he can still skate. He's still a really fast skater. He still can play. And I mean, I know that there's a little disappointment from some of the Toronto fan base that Marleau is not being paired with Matthews, but I think it fits into what Babcock wants to do, to have Marleau playing with Kadri and Komarov on either on a checking line or that line. Kadri scored 30 goals, so getting 30 goals out of your checking center is pretty good. But Marleau is going to get time on the power play, and I still believe that they wouldn't have signed Marleau if the plan wasn't to move JVR. I don't think they're anxious to move JVR unless they get the value that they need from him, because I don't think they're going to re-sign him. But I think right now they're going to stand with what they have and then maybe reevaluate based on what's going on in the minors too, because they have 3 or 4 really good forward prospects that could step up, and if they feel that somebody can step up for JVR, then they could move him to a team that needs goal scoring. Yeah,
and then there's going to be plenty of people who will take him, as well, and that's going to be, I think, the key for him. It basically, you could see them going in the playoffs with him or without him, I think, when I look at it. But I think more likely with him. It just feels like they would be willing to lose him for nothing if they felt like they had a good enough chance of making a run.
Yeah, I guess the term is an own rental. If you don't think you're going to get value, but that's the thing. I think they will get value. I think they'll get offers that will convey the value of JVR. But the problem is, I think that the offers that they've been looking for, they apparently offered Van Riemsdyk in a deal for Travis Hamonic. The Islanders decided they weren't sure about the Tavares situation. They didn't want to put all their eggs in one basket, so that's why they got 3 draft picks for Hamonic instead of JVR, whose contract is up. If there's a team out there that has an overabundance of defensemen like Anaheim, like Carolina, where his brother is playing, then maybe a deal like that makes sense for the Leafs. They're not going to trade him, just for the sake of trading him. They're going to trade him if they get assets that they deem equal to his value. And the guy scored 30 goals last year, so they're not going to give him up for a bag of pucks.
No, and they shouldn't, because he's an asset that they've handled really well. I mean, they got him they made a great trade to get him, and he's still been very valuable, and he's very valuable in the playoffs. He's potentially a very good playoff player for you. I guess the big question with them, is the sophomore slump. Will they fall out of the playoffs again? Could they? I mean, they just barely made the playoffs last year, as we remember, but yet they had a really good playoff series against Washington, just a tough series, which I thought was very valuable for them.
See, I'm less concerned about the sophomore slump and more concerned about the fact that they had absolutely no injuries.
Yeah, yeah.
Other than Marner for about 10 days and Morgan Riley for about 2 weeks, they were completely uninjured all year, and that doesn't happen. And I've heard the argument that like Babcock, what he did in Detroit was tell players to avoid contact in certain circumstances, and that preserved the players and kept them from getting injured. That only goes so far. The teams are going to step up physically against a bunch of young skilled players, and there's not a lot of deterrence on the Leaf roster. You got Matt Martin and maybe Roman Polak, and that'll be about it. So teams are going to be more physical with them, and they are young, so they're more durable, but it's just not logical to assume that they're going to go without injuries another year. So it's going to test the depth of the organization. And God forbid if Frederick Anderson goes down and you have to rely on McElhaney and Garrett Sparks for 4 to 6 weeks.
Right.
That's that could be the difference between making and missing the playoffs right there.
Well, one thing about last year that people seem to forget is Anderson really had a tough start. He didn't play that well at the beginning of the
first month.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of points there that they lost. If he had just picked up a couple of those points, they wouldn't have been close to missing the playoffs. So I honestly feel like from that point on, they were better than most of the teams that made the playoffs, and they were as good as anyone in some cases. I mean, they really were that strong.
Yeah, and I know that he came into the season with an injury last year.
Yeah,
it took him a little time to get settled in. This year, he came in phenomenal shape. He's been a rock in the preseason. He's probably going to get 60 to 62, 63 games, and McElhaney will probably play only the second of back-to-backs. So, it's all going to be on him. But like with any team, like with Montreal with Carey Price, if he goes down, it's every team has to be prepared for the goaltender being out for 4 to 6 weeks.
Right.
If you lose him for the year, you're done. You're probably done unless you have a phenom in the organization that you can bring up. But it's the ability to deal with a 4 to 6 week injury, and that's the big question with me because I don't know whether McElhaney can carry him through 4 to 6 weeks. If he can, then they'll make the playoffs. If he can't, they're probably not going to make the playoffs. So we'll see.
Right. I agree. So there you have it. The Toronto Maple Leafs. They're gonna be a fun one. They're gonna be a fun one to watch. They're definitely, I think around the league when you ask people who their second favorite team are, the Maple Leafs have a lot of those takers right now because they're fun to watch on TV. They are they're must see TV. I mean just Marner and Matthews by themselves are must see TV. They really are. They really are phenomenal. So I think they're going to be great. They're going to be a great team to watch. And in the preseason they seem to be picking up right where they were.
Yeah, and if I had to be nailed down on a prediction, I would say that they're going to finish in the top 3 in the Atlantic, but that's assuming that everything goes as it went last year. If they have some injuries, if they have some problems, then it might be wild card.
Yeah, it's possible. I think right now I'm putting them in second in the Atlantic. I think is where they're going to fall. Just because I think that they really are better than the other, with everybody with the exception of Tampa Bay. I think they're better than all the other teams in the Atlantic. I mean, I think they're better than Ottawa, Montreal, Florida, Detroit, Buffalo. I think they're just better than all those teams. So in a way, they're in second by default, sort of to me. It's not like they're going to be incredibly dominant, but they're better than those teams. And some of those teams will struggle, I think. So, but time will tell. Time will tell. Always very good. So we're gonna cut it there, guys, because my voice is going on me pretty damn fast. I don't want to sound terrible for you, but I will be back again tomorrow. Remember, without the buzz is just hockey. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Talk to you then.